You are watching episode 106 of the Unnecessarily Low Energy Nonsense Podcast. I'm Carlos, and that's Dave, and if we stay awake, we'll be talking about AEW Fyter Fest Night 2, a little Tom Brady hate, not like we ever do that any other time, and a little bit more wrestling news that is also AEW adjacent that could be very interesting, and maybe I'll sprinkle in a little WWE there if I'm feeling extra salty. That and more on this episode of the Unnecessary Low Energy Nonsense Podcast. I'm tired. That's Dave.
I think I used up all my energy rocking out to our intro.
It seems appropriate. But yeah, a little bit low energy. I did get, actually got my first vaccine shot today. It was actually relatively painless in the sense, not literally and figuratively, but most shots are generally pretty painless. But I will say that they made it very easy for me. Considering, and I'll give a little context and background, my health card expired like 10 years ago. That's not exaggeration. Now, it hasn't been an issue for me because I can still go to my local doctor. They just punch it in, whatever. But they've got mechanisms in place. The idea is that they want to do it. Now, I will get the stupid thing updated. And the reason for it is not any objection on my part, just good old-fashioned laziness. That's literally the reason why. And also, clearly, no one's called me out on it in 10 years, so it really hasn't been an issue that I can still get medical attention anytime. However, I did bring my ID with me, just so that they would be able to punch it in, which is what the pharmacist needed to do. But what was really good is that the pharmacy themselves, you could just fill it out online, and they would notify you when they had some vaccines to be able to offer, which was really nice. So I got basically an email and a message, and they said, hey, if you'd like, we can book an appointment for you. And I did. I picked today, and I had my time slot and everything, and they sent me multiple reminders on my text. Hey, it'll be tomorrow. Hey, it's an hour away. So they gave me...
They're really going at you, eh?
No, but it was good because I already had it pretty well figured out that I was gonna walk over. The family was busy doing something, so I knew I was gonna stroll over. So I need to make sure I gave myself enough time. But it was nice and easy. The pharmacy was basically empty, so I just waltzed over and I go, "Hey, I'm here for the appointment." He goes, "Yep." Starts punching in the stuff, takes care of it. "Yep, just sit here for 15 minutes." When time was up, they're like, "Yep, have a good day." Sweet, nice and easy. Yeah, nice and easy. You get your little paper saying you got it done, and we're good to go. So from that perspective, it was nice and easy. But the rest of the day, I've been kind of taking it easy because I have been getting progressively tired. Now, in fairness, I was tired before I even got there, so it's only kind of been emphasized a little bit more.
Yeah.
But from that perspective, nice and easy. But I was looking forward to tonight because even before we were going to record, I knew that there were a couple of things that I wanted to talk about. But before we get to that, Mr. Turbo, how was your week?
It was good. It was good. A little bit stressful. So I have a story for you that you'll appreciate. And I have to leave out some details of the story because, so this is all about an autograph that I have sent in for, that I paid for, and I've drawn, and I'm sending off to get signed. Okay. Mm-hmm. I will let you know once I receive said autograph who this is actually for.
Okay.
All right. But anyway, so I sent it off to the place, and there was a money order attached because it's in U.S. funds, and I had paid for it. So I sent off, a self-addressed stamp envelope for return, the money order, the sketch, and a letter with like some instructions as to sort of what I wanted them to sign and all that jazz.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Send it off April 30th. May 12th, it arrives. Okay. I have received nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So I I emailed the end of June. Finally, I was like, okay, what's the deal? Like, have you sent it? Like, what's going? Because I mean, it's one thing to worry about something that's, hasn't happened versus something they actually sent and it got lost in the mail or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I talked to the person at the store where it's happening, and they're like, okay, well, when did you send it? I said, send on May 12th. This is the first week of July. I'm having this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and what did you send? I said, it's a sketch. What size? It's 5x7. Okay, was it, did you do it in these colors? I was like, yep, that's right. That's the colors I did it in. Oh, well, yeah, I remember that. Like, it's definitely been signed. I think we signed it in this color. And, so it's definitely been sent off. So I'm like, okay, well, so what's the deal then? You want me to just wait and see and, like, give it a couple more weeks kind of thing? They're like, yeah, give it a couple more weeks, and then we'll see where we're at. It's like, okay, fine. So I waited 2.5 weeks. Figure get a little buffer in there. Still nothing.
Mm-hmm. Now, where's this coming from?
Florida.
Oh, geez. Okay. Go on.
Okay. So I call back, say, hey, I called 2 weeks ago. here's the deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Well, and I said, like, do I need to send another one? Like, what, because I've paid for this. You told me last time that you cashed the money order,
Mm-hmm.
or you think you've cashed the money order. So, what's going on? And they're like, oh no, hold on. She's like, we had a lot of stuff that just got moved around in the back. Let me check. And I'm like, well, you told me you sent it to me, so I don't think you're gonna find anything in the back. But like, go nuts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, comes on maybe like 30 seconds later, maybe less, or sorry, maybe a little bit more. Boom. Okay, so what size you say it was? 5x7. It's in these colors. Yep. This is your name. This is your address. Yep. Yeah, it's here. We, it's all checked off that it's all ready to go. And I was like, oh, so you mean it's signed? You just need to put it in the mail. No, it's not signed yet. It's all ready. We just need the person to come, the said person to be here. They'll sign it, and then we'll mail it to you. Dude, it's been since May 12th. What the fuck?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing.
And you also told me that you sent it to me. Why couldn't you just told me this last time?
Yeah. No, I got you. I would say
the mysterious box in the back, right?
Listen, it's all about the mysterious box in the back. One thing I'll say to you, and this is actually a good lesson for this kind of stuff.
And for the record,
mm-hmm.
when I tell you once you find out who this was, this will not be a surprise to you.
Sure. Yeah. Now, is this this is in the world of wrestling, or is this a celebrity?
It's a world of wrestling.
Yeah,
that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I figured that. The only thing I'll say is that I haven't done any signings with any of these companies, but there are certain companies that do signings, but they'll actually do it on a live stream. Mm-hmm. So something like that I always will favor, just because then you can physically see the person, get your thing, and sign it.
I got a story about that too. You ready for this story?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm not gonna mention the person because my brother doesn't know. It's for my brother. I got an autograph. I did it for my brother. A different organization. They do stuff through Facebook. They do a live signing, right? So I ordered the autograph. I watched the live signing, right? Saw an hour 7-minute through. My brother's autograph item was sent. Like, well, was it just a picture? Like, they had the picture, but it was signed. You got the shout out, all that jazz.
Yeah,
perfect. That was June 21st.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. And now I've messaged that. I've called them, no answer, and I've messaged them on an email, and no answer. Just being like, have you shipped it? Like, what's the deal? Because you pay for it. It's one thing where you send something off and hope for the best. Like, that's what I've been doing with some things, but that didn't cost me anything other than the stamp, right? Whereas this is like, I paid for this. I have a receipt for this. Give me my goods, please, or at least tell me what the fuck's going on. Right. I heard nothing. Mm-hmm. So anyway, to be continued.
Well, let that be a lesson to you all. Do not ask for autographs and live in the third world. Apparently. They just assume you don't have a standing army. You can't do anything about it.
Yeah, apparently. If I had lived at Carlos's address, I would have had extras. They would just been like, here are more.
No, like You say that at jest, but it is a fact. They do not understand that the access that I have to the nuclear football. Biden doesn't have it. I do. So it's one of those things like, you're not playing with me. It's like, you will send me whatever I ask for. If I want the person, you send them to me in a box. Put a couple of holes on the outside. I will do whatever I please. Thank you very much. But it's like, it is what it is. But if you're in the third world, it is.
Apparently.
That's all you get, Dave.
But somehow I got a Kurt Angle thing in 2 weeks.
Hey, listen. He's an Olympic gold medalist. He's an Olympic hero. He's your Olympic hero, Dave.
He is. He also sucks. But it's true.
In a good way.
It's damn
in a good
true.
way. But in a good way.
Carlos.
Yeah, exactly. That's fair enough. So quickly, I do want to get a little bit into the AWP. So, but before we do, this is really important. This is important to me.
All right.
Because I have a passion for this. I need some Tom Brady hate. What am I hating on him for?
So,
give me some specifics.
Apparently, I also hate when I get notifications that have anything to do with Tom Brady on my phone. But based on certain apps you follow, right, the algorithm sends you. So he went off this week about how he was disrespected in free agency.
Wait, was that this week or wasn't that a couple weeks ago? I feel like it was a while ago.
I got a notification this week.
Okay.
But again, third world, so who knows?
Yeah, I was going to say. Feels like it was a while ago, but sure.
But it's like, dude, shut up. First of all, nobody cares. And second of all, if somebody does care, screw you, you shouldn't care.
Well, but the
right?
thing is, haven't you noticed that Tom Brady is now all of a sudden very talkative? Tom Brady went to the White House with
Yeah.
with his football team, which
I
he
did see
which he
that.
literally has never done. And it's very funny. It's very amusing. And then when he got there, it's like, oh, Brady got jokes. Oh, look at this
Yeah.
guy. Ooh, hold on, stand back, everybody. It's this badass over here. He's got jokes now.
And it's like, just shut up. No one cares.
Ever since the boat Super Bowl celebration, Dave, it's like y'all had this. Like I'm saying to you what I said all the way back when the Ottawa Senators played the Pittsburgh Penguins back when Ogilvy failed us. Y'all could have done something about this. You had a chance. Had a chance. Terribleness. And now
No.
we just have to accept that Tampa Bay's the best at everything.
Just yeah, unfortunately. But
What you don't know is that your packages were actually diverted through Tampa Bay. But since they're the best, they'll send it to you when the damn well please.
one of them was actually diverted through Tampa Bay.
Have you considered that your Tampa Bay slander may be part of the reason you haven't gotten your stuff?
Oh no, no, that was on the way to be delivered. It went through Tampa Bay, so I have verification that it got delivered. Now
All I'm
on the
saying,
way home, if it comes through Tampa Bay, I may be screwed.
I was gonna
But
say,
for right now, my end of the bargain in getting it there has been fulfilled, and everything worked fine.
I understand. I personally believe that any and all items coming from the United States will now all be diverted through Tampa Bay, no matter where you send them to, just so that they can personally ensure that you get your things on time and under budget.
It's possible.
It's part of your feud. What kind of feud would it be if they didn't fire back a couple of shots?
Fair enough.
Yep. So the feud continues. Feud continues. But yes, Tom Brady's got jokes now, everybody. Settle back. Stand back. Stand back.
And I would just like Tom Brady to shut up.
Yeah, well, he'll need to get put on his ass a couple of times during a game. We'll have to see, because that line in theory is still good. We'll talk about it more when we get closer to football season, but we'll see how things play out. It'll be interesting no matter what either way this year. Now, shall we talk some AEW?
Please.
Okay, so let's start off with Fyter Fest Night 2. Now, I didn't mind the show, and I think you have some feelings similar to mine, but I'll be more specific, and then we'll go match by match, and then feel free to interject any thoughts as we go through, okay? I felt it was a mixed bag. I thought it was an okay show. I thought it was an okay show that could have been a great show, but there were certain things that didn't quite work for me.
Even though Busted Open gave it its award best of the week.
Compared to WWE, yeah, sure.
Apparently SmackDown was pretty good. I don't know. That's what I heard.
I get it. But it's one of those, like, we're grading on a low bar right now. WWE is not exactly at a high ebb. So yeah, sure. By comparison, yes. So real quick, so let's start off with this. So Chris Jericho and Shawn Spears led it off. It was part of the whole Labors of Jericho thing. So I won't really.
I'm down with that storyline.
The storyline is fine. I just think the execution is going to be a little questionable as we go along. I'll explain why in a second. So anyway, they did have their little back and forth, and it was a stipulation that Shawn Spears could use a chair, whereas Jericho could not. Now, I won't go blow by blow in the match, but the chair did come into play. Jericho technically didn't use the chair, but sort of used the chair, and ended up defeating Shawn Spears. That led to MJF coming out, who was already on commentary, and it led to him coming out and, cutting a promo. And then, of course, since it's wrestling, he's already got the next challenger already queued up for him. So the next challenger is going to be Nick Gage, who is infamous. Yeah, who's infamous for death matches, and that's kind of his shtick. And but he's a known quantity in that realm because he is
in the
very
realm of death match. Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's his shtick. That's what he does. So the idea here being that Jericho is in jeopardy with a guy who's kind of nuts, and that's kind
So
of
they brought the Painmaker Jericho.
Yeah. I'll get to that. Yeah, which is lame. In Japan it works because in Japan that kind of character work is perfectly fine. In North America it's lame. It's the same reason the whole Yoshi thing doesn't quite work for me. It's like it's too much character, too much gimmick. It's like you're already Chris Jericho, you're already Le Champion, you already got 57,000 nicknames in your current iteration.
What did he come into? He had another nickname that he came into.
You mean originally?
No. On Wednesday. It when they flash his name across the screen, his record,
the Demo
and
God.
all that.
The Demo God.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, he was Le Champion, and then he was the Demo God, and like he's got enough nicknames. He's
Y2J. I mean, even though that was another issue altogether. Apparently this week.
The reality is that like at this stage in the game, he's rapidly approaching Triple H level of I'm just making up my own freaking nicknames for myself at this stage.
Yeah.
Plus, he was Lionheart Chris Jericho originally back in the day, and like there's a million things. Like, you don't need more gimmicks. Now, in fairness, this isn't a new gimmick. He's using his Japan gimmick, where he was stylized a little bit differently. But it's like, this isn't necessary. Nick Gage is a weird choice. Now, here's the thing: if you're gonna do it, why do it as the second one? Because Nick Gage is actually kind of he does have a reputation of being kind of nuts. And he is very violent with the deathmatch style that he uses.
Well,
if you're going to do that, you're going to push. You should push it towards the end.
You know, based on because the storyline is if he gets all 5 matches, he faces MJF, right? That's the end. So you know that's going to happen.
I understand, but you can still sequence it in a logical format.
No, but that's what I mean. Like, so he's going to beat Nick Gage.
It doesn't matter. My point is, you use Nick Gage near the end. He's closer to a final boss than he is closer to the beginning. You sequence it in a logical order.
Fair enough. I'm also not thrilled with the fact that they're using Nick Gage. I mean, yeah, he's got his thing. He had a Dark Side of the Ring. And I'm convinced that if it wasn't for that Dark Side of the Ring episode, he would not be on AEW programming.
Yeah.
But it's like, dude, the guy's not really a wrestler.
It doesn't really matter. That's not the point.
You know? And I don't think, personally, they should be glorifying that kind of style. Even though they've already had, a bunch of death matches on.
I was about to say, in the main event, we're going to do another death match. You do realize that, like, on the very same mat, on the very same card. So anyway, the point is, the outcome was fine. It follows the storyline. It makes sense. The Nick Gage edition was at least the audience wasn't expecting it. I wasn't necessarily expecting it. I didn't think Nick Gage was in play. So I will give credit to Tony Khan for surprising us, throwing us a little bit of a curveball. So from that perspective, fair enough. I feel like, though, if you're going to use the Nick Gage card, I feel like you would wait later. So, like, I'd be curious then what your intention is for the third. Like, this is what I'm trying to get at. Like, now I feel like you almost use your a big surprise early on a show where you're going to be doing some. I guess, though, in fairness,
then
in
you
coming
never
weeks,
know. They could have a bunch more waiting in the wings.
Yeah,
too, right?
maybe that's the idea. So we'll see. We'll see what they do. Obviously, the expectation is he wins the match, and then we continue forward, and maybe we've got some other surprises coming up. Fair enough. You know, I'm not super invested in this storyline, to be honest with you, but it's fine. It's fine for what it is, and for an opening match, the crowd was into it sufficiently, so I was okay with it. So let's move on to the next match here. So the next one is interesting here. Going forward from this point, let me go to the... See, I would love just to have a page that just shows me the list properly. Okay, next one, Frankie Kazarian versus Doc Gallows. This was just an excuse to get basically a conclusion where Frankie Kazarian is being attacked. Like, here's the thing. Frankie Kazarian is doing a good job in what he's doing. I just don't care about this portion of the story. Like, I get at a certain point, it's like, look, you keep attacking them. At a certain point, they should just gang up on you and kick your ass. It would seem logical to me. It's like, this trick will only work so many times. So to be honest, logically, it made sense. They finally like, okay, enough of you. We're going to deal with you. It was just an excuse to get Hangman Adam Page to come out and basically confront Kenny Omega, and they're kind of still avoiding each other. So fine, great. Reasonable enough. Going forward, though, let's kind of move forward here. I'm not, like I said, not too invested in this one. You had Darby Allin with Sting versus Wheeler Utah with Orange Cassidy. To be honest, I don't actually understand why this match exists, other than to have the Sting and Orange Cassidy face off of all face-offs. It was just that one little piece. By the way, credit to Sting for playing along. Like, he doesn't have to, he doesn't need to. But I think he's legit. I would say this is indicative that he is legitimately enjoying himself, just hanging around and helping out with this stuff, because he doesn't have to do it, and it's silly, It's
no, for sure.
But like, he's playing along. He's like, yeah, I can do that. So it's one of those things where he's not getting in the way. He's just participating and being part of it. But it was almost a weird match. I would almost have been like, I understand you have this nice crowd and everything. I almost would have put this on Dark or Elevation or one of those ones. I just didn't feel like Fyter Fest 2 was like a special. They've been doing a sequence of these special episodes. I just don't see other than that moment where we're Sting and Orange Cassidy were doing that thing. I was like, Darby Allin was in a war just last week. It's like, you could have given him the week off. I would actually give him the week off and maybe let Wheeler Utah face somebody else and just do that instead for the week. But anyway, it wasn't a bad match. It was a decent match, good wrestlers. So it's like, but I just couldn't figure out what purpose this one served other than to get that one big moment with Sting.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Whatever.
Hey, I'm always a fan of Sting coming out because I like Sting. Right. But you know, this match was kind of another. I mean, it was better than the second match, I think. But you know, then they had their nice moment where Sting and Orange Cassidy did their thing, and it was haha, that's fun, you know.
Yeah, and like I said, Sting's being a great sport. He was participating in it because, like I said, in reality, it only helped Orange Cassidy. It gave him some legitimacy that he and Sting got to have that little moment, and nobody lost out of that. It was just a fun little. The crowd was into it. It was a fun little side diversion where the crowd had some fun with it in an otherwise nothing match. Like there's really nothing in the match that mattered. You just got your result, and it was all good. Whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, but you'll notice so far, like in this card, the way it's played out, it's that you've got matches with folks that are decent. The results are fair, but nothing really that felt very significant. You'd have these little moments around them. Like in reality, the first match, the MJF promo was almost more important than the match itself that led into it. In the second match, the Hangman Page save was the big thing that came out of that second match. And in this third one, the Sting and Orange Cassidy thing was more important than the match itself. Yeah. So far, you've had 3 matches and 3 exterior things that are almost like, okay, well, this is almost a justification for us just to do this. Here we are. So like I said, it felt like this disjointed thing. Next one is Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, taking on Nyla Rose for the AEW Women's Championship. It played out a lot of what I said. They got the correct result, but it just felt like a disjointed mess of a match. It wasn't terrible, but it was I would say it was good that the crowd was willing to play along. The crowd was willing to give them a lot of room because it just didn't feel like it didn't flow. It wasn't smooth.
Yeah.
So it's like, I can't call it a bad match because it wasn't. I've definitely seen worse, infinitely worse. But I would say the crowd saved what was a below average match. They did get the result they wanted. They did get, Britt Baker away from Nyla Rose. Now, there is some rumor out there that Britt Baker might have actually hurt herself a little bit, but she's supposedly not going to be off TV. Mind you, you can probably set up her next challenger and you can buy yourself some time anyway.
She has said she was injured. Or she did. She had a picture on Instagram. With her
like a wrist injury or something. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now you never know in the world of kayfabe, like what's actually the deal. But
sure, but it's one of those things where since you just finished the match and won it, it's like, what's the point of having a kayfabe injury right after that?
Yeah,
it almost doesn't play into it. And she did wince post match when she had her arm raised. So she was playing it immediately right after the match. So it's a possibility she did injure herself in a certain way. Apparently she's not going to miss any time. And the good news is there's no logical challenger. I don't want to see her and Nyla Rose again. Let's figure out who the next person is and let's move on to whatever the next piece is going to be. Just an awkward way to start the championship run. It was just weird. It'd be like, I just don't understand why this was the thing. But anyway, not like I said, not a bad match, but we're still in the same problem. Like, so far, nothing super distinguishable about this card. Even though on paper it had some potentially interesting stuff, it just, nothing clicked up until this point. I was watching it and I was like, it's okay. It's fine. So anyway, going forward. Next one. Andrade introduced Chavo Guerrero as his executive assistant. So that was a little promo thing going on. And then brought in Death Triangle. Here's the thing. I'm intrigued, but it took too long.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm intrigued. I love that Chavo Guerrero's there. He got a great reaction from the crowd. They loved him. I think he could do a great job in this role to kind of help Andrade. But I do feel like I did hear some critiques on a couple of podcasts and things, and I agree with them. I think this is a situation where, in this situation, if Andrade is not 100% comfortable, he can speak some English. He's gotten way better. He's dating Charlotte Flair.
I actually don't mind how they're doing, parts of it in Spanish.
Yeah, but you got to pick your spots. This was like a big promo for him, and it's very long, and you're trying to establish something. If he's talking for 20 or 30 seconds, knock yourself out. If you're talking for a minute, knock yourself out. If you're trying to hold a 4 or 5 minute segment, get Chavo to do most of the talking. Or talk in Spanish and have him translate it. Do the same thing that happens with Penta. Penta can get this intense promo over, but it's completely in Spanish. And then the guy beside him, the announcer guy from AEW, who's kind of working with them consistently now, he goes, Penta says, and it works. It works for them. The dynamic is good because the whole time Penta is like believable in what he's saying. Like he's not going slowly. He's not hesitating. He's saying exactly what he wants to say, and then he's getting a translation on the spot so that everybody gets it. Plus, they were in Dallas, so some people probably understand some Spanish, so you didn't completely lose the translation. But it felt quick and smooth. Whereas for the Andrade one, it's like, Andrade was figuring out his words as he went along, and it's like, okay, you have way too much stuff to say to have to spend too much time thinking about it. And Andrade's English has gotten substantially better. He's dating Charlotte Flair.
Mhm.
So they probably talk in English and Spanish. So he's improving as we speak. But this is where Chavo Guerrero can like totally earn his pay here. He'd be like, nope, I have credibility. I will help you get over. So say what you need to say. I will translate. If it's a shorter piece, go ahead. Do a little English, do a little Spanish, done. But there's a time and a place. That's where the agent in the back has to be like, hey, this is a really long promo. Maybe we hit our points. Chavo, help him out, man. Get him to the line so that everybody understands exactly what's going on. We get to the next thing. We can go.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't mind them having more time, but it's like it's got to be well efficiently used time. It felt like we lost a lot of time there, just kind of slowly getting through this promo. It felt like it was moving too slow for me.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair.
Yeah, and that's what I say. It's just a critique. It's not a condemnation. I just like the crowd was helping these guys so much with a lot of this stuff, where otherwise less forgiving crowd would have absolutely murdered them for it.
Right.
So lucky them that they had a good crowd, but I would use this as a lesson. Pick your spots very carefully. If you want to do a longer promo, then use the help. Chavo can be invaluable here to help you out. And because Chavo's a good talker too. So like he can help you 1,000 times over. Easy. All right, next one here. So the Blade with the Bunny taking on Orange Cassidy. I don't care. I like the Blade. I like Orange Cassidy for what he is. I like the Bunny as the manager kind of thing going on. But these two, I don't care. Like, I don't understand why they're here. Like, I don't need to see you guys anymore. Like, find somebody else. I actually want to see the Blade do some cool stuff. I like the Blade. I appreciate him as a wrestler. Like, and he looks great. He's doing like a really good job. He looks like a guy who should be a guy.
Yeah.
In the mid card, he should be allowed to do like just get him away from Orange Cassidy. Let him do some things. Let him kind of look badass and be badass, and let him do something. And let Orange Cassidy find somebody else to feud with. Again, not a bad match. They're both good workers. They can do the job in the ring, but I'm like, I don't understand why you're subjecting me to this again. I don't care.
Yeah.
So you got to pick your spots. Like I said, this is kind of the concept of the show here is that I'm not really condemning any of these matches because conceptually they're not bad. It's just I don't need matches for the sake of matches. You got to figure out where you're going to get your value. So move on here. And the last one, Jon Moxley and Lance Archer for the IWGP United States Championship, which was really good.
What a waste of Jake the Snake, though.
What do you expect him to do?
I don't know. I was just like, why do you have to bring him out? Like, he was just going to stand there. You know what I mean? Like, it's not even like he was like really kind of hyping him up or anything. He was just kind of there. I would expect that you would at least, cheer him on.
Yeah, I think the problem is that initially when Jake the Snake came with Lance Archer, he was there to kind of introduce him and hype him up, and they did promos and everything.
Yeah.
The thing is, Lance Archer can actually talk a little bit. He's not like one of those guys who cannot speak. He can speak technically for himself. So it's almost like I think what they're doing is I think Jake the Snake is also doing some work with them in the back, and I think they're trying to figure out. It's not like they want to necessarily split them up. There's no reason to look a gimmick, especially after this outcome, and I'll get to the match in a second. The two of them look the part together, but you don't really need Lance Archer doesn't need a mouthpiece anymore.
Yeah,
he's kind of a guy who can kind of like look at him, and he can say his piece. He can say what he needs to say, and he looks legit. And the outcome of this match was the correct one, in my opinion, and I'll explain why in a second. But the thing is, I would say, all things considered, this was easily the best match on the entire card for Fyter Fest Night 2. It was a good old-fashioned, hard-hitting match. It was a Texas death match, which is to say they had some plunder. They whacked each other. Both guys are real tough, so they were able to sell the idea that it's like, we're going to do it. And Jon Moxley, like, stabbed the man with the fork. Just because.
But it's also, I mean, again, camera angle, you could very clearly see that he was not actually stabbing him with the fork.
Oh, yeah, I understand that. But this has been an AEW thing where it's like, guys, you know what I would do? I would steal away a couple of WWE's camera people. Or a couple of their folks that work the switchboard in the back that pick the camera angles, offer them twice as much as WWE's paying because they'll be worth their weight in gold by hitting the right camera angles in some of these moves.
Yeah, for sure.
But overall, hard hitting. I enjoyed it. I thought it was very good, considering, like I said, and I want to make clear from my entire run through of this card, I didn't dislike the card. I thought it was a good show. The problem I had was that there was a lot of stuff that felt like filler or didn't quite make sense or, these guys are fine.
Fyter Fest Night 1 was a lot better.
I think night one was more consistent from beginning to end. It felt more solid. I felt like everything made some sense.
Like as a show where the matches made sense, and you know, again, because the quality of the match was fine for the most part, was fine, but you don't have. I personally felt there was more invested in night one than in night two.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of it just felt like we got these guys on the card somehow. It's like, well, but you don't always need to do that. I kind of like, in that case, I would have put some other people in there for feature matches because, like I said, the Blade and Orange Cassidy, like I got nothing invested in it. It was the equivalent of the Penelope Ford match with Yuka on night one.
Yeah,
like, I don't mind these two. I just don't need to see them together. It doesn't work for me, this particular pairing in this situation. But at least for the crowd, you send them home happy. Good, solid, hard-hitting match. Lots of plunder. You got a little bit of that. John Moxley getting, hubris. The two biggest spots that he was involved in. Here's the thing. The bit at the end where he's got the two tables and he's got the two boards with the barbed wire and everything.
Yeah.
That was a vicious spot, a big spot and everything. That's what obviously ended the match. But I'll say the thing with the chair where you've got them set up like a triangle where he lands on his back in the middle of that thing. Yeah. I'm sorry, that's more brutal to me because my back hurts just watching it.
Yeah, I mean the table, the way he fell through the table, like, is it going to hurt? Sure, because you're landing on barbed wire.
Correct.
But you're not.
A chair's a chair. You basically created a structure that has rigidity based on the way you put the chair there. It's like there's nothing you can do. You fold over the back of the chair.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so to me that was the ooh. Okay, that's the one that got a little bit more reaction out of it. The other one, as soon as they set that up, I was like, okay, so which one of you is going through it? I will say, correct move, because Lance Archer needed this. He had been in a couple of different title opportunities already. This would be like his third or fourth opportunity at a title. He needed one because he's been pretty strong. He basically would get right up to a championship opportunity and then lose the championship match. Mm-hmm. So he was like a consistent contender. By the way, WWE, take note. They were able to do this because Lance Archer consistently wins outside of that title match. So even if he loses a title match, then he would go on a run where he would continue winning again to build himself back up to the next match. So most often, people would watch him win. It would be consistent. They're like, yeah, he's actually very consistently winning. It's just this title match, for some reason, something happens and he doesn't quite get over the hump. But he's a contender because he's consistently in the mix. Yeah. So he's still legit when it comes time for you to put him in front of another champion. It's like, nope, he feels like a guy who could at least contend for this. He's got a shot. Something's got to go right for him. So in this case, it went right for him in his hometown. And then left the crowd nice and happy, and they were thrilled with it. A great finish. And by the way, he looked great in victory. And then post show, there was a clip on social media where John Moxley gave him the respect spot where he goes, "Here you go. Here's the title. Hands up," and gave him his props, gave him his credit. And John Moxley did an excellent job of doing his end of the bargain and getting him the title there. And he may just go home for a little bit just to go be with the newborn because he's got a child and everything with. Yeah. So basically, it's a good excuse to get him off TV for at least a little bit. And then when he comes back, he's John Moxley. He'll be good to go. He doesn't need the title, but it was a good opportunity to put it on somebody who could use it. He needed that win with the title involved. So win-win. A good strong finish. Strong finish. Not their best show, but a good, strong finish to send the crowd home happy, and the crowd was very good for this show.
Agreed.
Yep. Anything else you want to add to that? Does that make sense?
No, I don't think so. I don't really think so. I think we covered everything sort of from we're very much on the same page with this card and the show. So tell me some news, Carlos. What's going on? Who's going to join AEW next?
Yes. So there
also,
was
more Malachi Black, please.
Oh, I think we're getting to that. I like that they're doing a slow burn though. We didn't need him on the show. I would have enjoyed a segment with him, but it's like, no. Save it for when you're ready to do it on a show where you're ready to do it. I think that's good. And it's good news for AEW that you have access to. You can say, oh, can you bring in Malachi Black? Good. It means that you're not using everybody on every show and burning them out so quickly. No, now people have anticipation. You bring
Probably
them out
good
next.
For their health too. In the long
Absolutely. That's what I mean. It's a win-win for a lot of these wrestlers, but it also keeps them important. Now people will be like, oh man, I hope Malachi Black's on next week. Perfect. That's what you want, anticipation. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
So that's and then they can play into that. So a lot of rumors circulating. So I'll tell you two rumors that have been playing into it. Now, have you actually heard about this? Do you know?
I don't know. I'm waiting for you to tell me the rumor, and then I will.
So
let you know if I've heard them.
So I will tell you the first. So I'll tell you the first one. The first one that was been out there, the one that is pretty much a done deal by most of the sources that have been out there, double checking and trying to confirm it, is that the former Daniel Bryan, now Bryan Danielson, has allegedly signed a deal with AEW to join them.
Was he out of contract with WWE or?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you just didn't re-sign with him?
He was just kind of a free agent. Exactly. It's a situation where
he was pretty over in WWE, was he not?
He was a multi-time world champion.
Yeah.
He won the main event of WrestleMania 30 while in New Orleans they like screamed yes. So yes, Dave. Yeah. I have the WrestleMania 30 Blu-ray, I believe. 33. Yeah, 30. So yeah, he now it was by accident because WWE never really thought in their head they were going to do it. They claimed after the fact, oh yeah, that was our plan all along. Yeah, sure it was. But the point is that it worked beautifully, even though it was an accident. It was the audience. Because, okay, I'll give you the short version that I can. Basically, stemming back a couple of years back to a WrestleMania when he was the World Heavyweight Champion. That was the old WCW Big Gold Belt. That's when they were using that as a secondary title to the WWE Championship.
Okay.
So he had that belt. And he was at the time a bad guy, and it was a gimmick where he was him and AJ Lee, who will come into this in a minute indirectly. Okay. So the point is that he went out as champion, and WWE never really believed in Daniel Bryan from Vince McMahon on down. So they basically said, okay, so you're going to go out there, and Sheamus was the one who he was facing off in the match, and he lost the title in about 20 seconds.
Okay.
It was basically a bro kick and then got pinned. And it was one of those things where the audience started to get, there was a little bit of a groundswell, grassroots, basically campaign going like, look, this guy's doing a good job. We're enjoying what he's doing. He's a bad guy, but he's doing a good job with it. We're enjoying it. He was your World Heavyweight Champion. Again, considered a secondary championship for them. But still, he's doing a good job with this belt. And then you have him lose in less than 20 seconds, look like an idiot. So people didn't appreciate that, and they really got mad about it. And over the next couple of months, it just kept building up. So there was a segment where, as they led into the Royal Rumble, I want to say the following year. So as they were leading the Royal Rumble, there was some momentum maybe for him to be the guy potentially to win the Royal Rumble. Because by that point, he had been building some momentum slowly.
Right.
So, of course, WWE in its infinite wisdom went through the whole card of people, and then they were going up on the number 30 spot. And people are thinking like, oh, well, maybe Daniel Bryan comes out at number 30, and then there's his chance he wins the Rumble and, moves on to WrestleMania.
Yeah.
The thing is that number 30 was Rey Mysterio. It was a returning Rey Mysterio, which under normal circumstances would have been pretty good. But the problem is that they had just brought back Dave Bautista. Then they're bringing in Rey Mysterio as number 30 in the Rumble as the surprise. And people are sitting there like, Daniel Bryan's not even in the Rumble. You got 30 people in there. You've got this guy who's got all this momentum. You didn't even give him a shot at being in the Rumble, like not even pretending. So in the end, even more momentum built up because Dave Bautista won the Royal Rumble. So now he just showed up back from being away for a while, and then Dave Bautista gets booed, and he's supposed to be a good guy in this situation, coming back after all these years. So it leads into this whole thing where through a convoluted, I don't want to go through the whole storyline, but through a convoluted thing, they find themselves in a position where the crowd is hijacking a lot of segments where they're trying to do stuff. They eventually have to pivot and make it into a thing where now all of a sudden Daniel Bryan is being held down by the authority, because that was the whole thing with Triple H and them. So they have to kind of retroactively. He was never supposed to be part of the storyline, really. He was just supposed to get crushed and then go back to the mid card with you, back to where you were. But now all of a sudden they're stuck in this position where they're not going to let us make this work, because the main event was going to be, I believe it was Randy Orton and Dave Bautista.
Right.
That was going to be your main event of WrestleMania 30.
Okay.
So basically, you have to now retroactively come up with this whole convoluted thing with Daniel Bryan, the Yes Movement, and all this stuff going on. The momentum finally built, and he has to earn his way in. And in WrestleMania 30, he basically has to wrestle 2 matches on that WrestleMania card. The first one against Triple H to win the right to get into the main event and become part of a triple threat match.
Okay.
So they have to play this whole story out where they stick every obstacle in his way now. And he beats Triple H in the early part of WrestleMania. Triple H injures him partway through. And then he has to crawl this is a couple hours before. And then he has to basically get injured, hobbled into a triple threat with Dave Bautista, multi-time world champion, Randy Orton, a multi-time world champion. And they're basically both heels against him.
Right.
He overcomes all the odds to become champion of the undisputed champion with both belts at WrestleMania 30 in New Orleans while the stadium crowd goes nuts and loses their mind. Indirectly, they made the biggest superstar in their company at that time by accident.
Oh, WWE.
Yeah. Now, what happens is Daniel Bryan has had some injury bug over the years because not long after he got hurt and then basically had to drop the title. Now, down the road, now indirectly at this point, it was a star-making performance for him because he was already a kind of a fan favorite. They enjoyed him. But now if you get to finish WrestleMania with the titles above your head, the confetti, and a stadium full of people screaming at you, yes, that's a star-making performance, and you're kind of stuck with like, well, now he's a main event player whether we like it or not.
Yeah, exactly.
we have to treat him like a main event player, at least to the degree that we can.
Yeah.
So not long after, he was basically forced into a retirement because of injuries. So then he was away for a while. And then eventually he was able to heal himself up enough to come back. And when he came back to a hero's welcome in the whole 9 yards. And he did get another run with the WWE Championship. And he did it as a bad guy, like being an overly environmental guy. So the point is, by the time it was done, Daniel Bryan went from being a really good wrestler that was solid and people liked to being a bad guy that was snarky, and we had some fun with it. And it was Team Hell No with him and Kane, and they were tag team champions. So he had won championships there. But it was all these relatively small things. And then, almost by accident, became a multi-time world champion. And by the time it was done, both title runs, or 2 or 3 title runs that he had, were all very well received. So now all of a sudden he's got the credibility of being a multi-time world champion, being part of a really big storyline leading to a WrestleMania where he got to main event WrestleMania and win. So yes, he is a name. I know it's a really long answer, but I need to give you a lot of context. There's a lot there.
Yeah.
So you get my point that the name actually holds some value in wrestling.
Yeah, I would have said that before though.
But it's even more like I'm explaining that.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, it's an upper tier because you're not just getting a multi-time WWE champion. Jack Swagger was a WWE champion at one point, so not quite the same level, level. But I would say
now he's going by his real name, Bryan Danielson.
Well, Bryan Danielson most likely. So that was the rumor mill. It's all but confirmed because a lot of outlets have now started to report it, and they've tried to reconfirm it. Everybody seems pretty well set that it's a go. Because a lot of folks have made there's a lot of smoke to the point that you're starting to see flames coming out now. So it's like we're pretty much good that that's the case. AEW is coyly just sitting back. They're not denying it, but they're not confirming it. Because look, we're trying to give you guys a surprise. We're trying to give you guys because that's a big deal. That's not just a dude. That's a dude who can still go in the ring. Who's a former world champion who has name recognition, name value, and can still go in the ring and potentially do something. There's some dream matchups that you could have with Bryan Danielson, who is a top tier performer. Now, that's one half of the rumor mill. That already is pretty good. If that's all I give you, like that's a big name in the business.
Yep, for sure.
Now, kind of connected to a lot of that, I mentioned the AJ Lee angle.
So we're going with CM Punk?
It's basically all but confirmed now.
Really?
They've basically gotten to the point where like a lot of the outlets are like, we've been trying to talk to everybody, and everybody we talked to is like, dude, actually, even as of less than 24 hours ago, the last report is he's signed. So
that I don't know, because I still feel like he's trolling everyone. And
CM Punk has been trolling folks for years, but the thing is that CM Punk also knows that you can only troll so much because he has been hovering around AEW. He's acknowledged that they've reached out to him multiple times. So it's one of those things where like now is as good a time. AEW understands that they're in a position where if you can figure out the right combination of storyline, money, and all the combination that you want, you're not going to give them creative control, but you give them a ton of creative input. So if you got the right combination of things for these guys, and having Bryan Danielson, who's buddies with him as well, as part of this conversation, both of these guys could have been talking for quite some time, going like, so I was thinking about coming back. What do you think? It's like, well, I think there's some stuff we could probably do, and there's some room to do. Because don't forget, AEW has guys like Mark Henry, Big Show, some of these guys. Their job is not to wrestle necessarily. But they're kind of a liaison. They're kind of a bridge between some of the old WWE guys and then some of this, because they're like, you treat these guys well, you treat them fairly. Well, what are they going to say when hey, how's the AEW thing going for you? Oh, I like it. I've been able to do this, and this, and I got some interesting stuff to do, and blah, blah, blah. A good review goes a long way for somebody who's like, technically I can go anywhere. If WWE will throw money at me, it's not money. Money's not the issue. But if you're Bryan Danielson or CM Punk, and you have some interesting things you want to do you think WWE is really going to let you what you want to do? Do you think you have do you think you're The Rock? Do you think you have the power to be able to dictate terms? You can get the financial terms, but the rest of it, you may not have much control. Whereas AEW and Tony Khan might be more inclined to, look, I'm not going to give you 100% creative control. I still have to decide what happens here. But we can have you at the table and we can talk through it and come up with something that makes sense, that works for you. So that's the appeal. So the point is, we will wait for final verification on this. And like I said, they coyly, if they want to have a surprise, they can't be like, yeah, 100%, totally.
But aren't they sort of teeing it up to happen in Chicago?
Yeah.
Right? Because that's the beginning of September.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
All out in Chicago,
They're doing Dynamite, they're doing Rampage, and then they have a pay-per-view All Out as well.
That's correct. That's what's led to a lot of the speculation of it. In addition to the fact that reports have gotten out that they have signed. That's the thing, is that, again, you can only do so much. But the thing about reports is that you can talk to people who should know, and if they say yes, there's only so much you can do. What you're looking for sources that have at least a track record of being reliable. That's what you're looking for. And for the most part, a lot of the sources that have come out have at least have a decent track record of actually hitting stuff correctly. So they have their sources. They're talking to whoever they're talking to and getting some information, and it seems to be jiving. The different sources seem to be at least hearing the same things from similar people in a position to at least have some knowledge of it. Again, we won't know for 100% sure, but it would make perfectly logical sense. And then going forward, imagine the momentum carrying off of that if you bring those two guys in short order of each other. And all of a sudden, you've got a lot of creative possibilities. And you've got these shows that you can spread people around and still have... Basically, you can draw eyeballs. The first time CM Punk shows up, if that occurs, and the first time Bryan Danielson shows up, if that occurs, you're going to get social media aflame. I just thought I would bring that one back. It was fun.
I like it. Yeah. I like it.
But you would. Like, at the moment that happens, you would have people freaking out on Twitter and freaking out. Like, trust me, trending. It would be all that good stuff. And then immediately, what does that do? It draws eyeballs to your next show. Mm-hmm. When you go tune into your next episode of Dynamite, will they speak? Will they say something? What? Like, you don't have to do them on the same show. You can do them on two different shows and like hit some buzz, and then maybe hit them with the old 1-2. Give them one on one show, and then all of a sudden, boom! Here's another surprise for you. So I'm saying the opportunity is there to do something very interesting. They could be coming in together. They could be coming in separately. There's options on how you want to proceed because they have a relationship going back years. It's not like they're not familiar with it. So there could be a reason why they both decided to come in around the same time. Like, you could play into a whole bunch of storylines. The point is, there's plenty of room. And CM Punk hasn't been around in like 7 years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So at that point, and again, you put CM Punk out there in Chicago, what do you think the local crowd will do? They'll lose their minds.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it'll blow the roof off the damn place. And we saw on this show where most of the matches were just kind of okay, but the crowd was really good.
Yeah.
It helped. It elevates the well, you put out CM Punk out in Chicago and the crowd freaks out and loses their mind. Guess what? That's going to look like a pretty good show. Regardless of what else you do, you could pretty much put anything else out there and the crowd will be on your side.
Yeah.
So as I said, there's some opportunity there. We'll have to see how they want to play it out. And now they've got these shows and TNT and TBS and all that. I'm sure they would appreciate like the extra star power. You use them sparingly, use them the right way. I see nothing that could go, because there's a lot of storylines you could do. Plus you got Malachi Black. Plus you've got, Miro is now building his momentum. Lance Archer just got a great performance out of this past show. Like, do you hear what I'm saying? Like, you got all these guys who are now riding some momentum. Oh, by the way, MJF is a supervillain who we haven't even used properly as a supervillain yet. At some point, he'll be in the title picture. Yeah, he's really good at being a dick. So when the moment is right, but you've got Kenny Omega right now doing his thing with Hangman Page. How many things did I just name off? They're all different. They're not the same people, and they're not all facing each other. They're doing their own things, separate parts of the universe. You've got these multiple shows. Guess what? We have enough storylines to keep you engaged and interested in a bunch of different directions, depending on what your preference is.
Yeah.
That sounds like something that you could do to make a decent show.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to, like I said, WWE is like, well, it's Roman Reigns or bust. Well, we brought back John Cena. That's awesome. What are you going to do with him? We're going to face him up against Roman Reigns? I see. What else do you have? So we got John Cena and Roman Reigns. Great. What happens after that? So we got John Cena and Roman Reigns. Are you seeing the problem?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, like
That's all you got, right?
WWE has so much money and so many people on the roster, but they have not built any stars. Nobody in North America, unless you were really hardcore, knew about Lance Archer. He was in the main event of the last show. And the crowd was freaking out cheering for him. That sounds like he made a star.
Yeah.
Miro was a very credible TNT champion. He was at least had some notoriety previously, but I would say right now he's riding as high as he's ever ridden.
Come on, you don't like the Rusev gig? Happy Rusev Day, Carlos?
It worked for what it was. I liked the tag team that they did, but that was him resurrecting himself after the apex. When his apex was when he faced John Cena at WrestleMania and rode in on a tank. And that should have been him beating John Cena, because that would have been a star-making performance. It would have been like exactly what I said about Daniel Bryan.
Right.
Because John Cena's a legit guy. If you have him beat John Cena after rolling out in the tank and basically calling a shot and doing the whole thing, and he's standing there holding the U.S. championship, the dude's en route to then being a world champion. Because you have to sit there like, it feels like that's the next logical step. It's only a matter of time now.
Yeah, for sure.
But instead you have John Cena beat him, and it's like, okay, so now what are you going to do? Basically, the next couple of years, he just kind of languished. Rusev Day was like the closest thing he got. It's like, well, at least we got something. And then they killed that too. And then they did the gimmick where his wife cheated on him with Bobby Lashley. Because Rusev sucks. That's WWE being petty. But do you know why that whole gimmick happened?
No.
Because they on social media, they made the mistake of having a post showing that they were married.
Oh, right, yeah.
While the storyline was going on. So that's WWE's solution, is like, so these are people in real life doing their own thing on social media. Most people don't see that on TV. So now we will punish you. Seems like a logical way to treat your employees so that they will be super loyal. So anyway, so there's that. And one quick thing about WWE as well, I'll throw in there. So their latest, their current NXT champion, Carrion Cross, who's done some good work on NXT. He's been really good. He had a nice undefeated streak until he got to Raw, and then lost to Jeff Hardy in 4 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
He's still NXT champion, by the way. And the report out there is that this was Vince McMahon's call because he decided he wanted to send a message to the NXT guys. Basically explaining that you're a lower level. It's like, cool, man, except you own NXT. This is your show as well. This is part of your brand. And by the way, it's also on TV with one of your television partners. And you just said that their champion is garbage.
Yeah.
What does that mean about all the guys he already beat on NXT? Turns out, by the way, Dave, NXT's garbage. You know why?
Well, we knew that, but
it's like, you do realize you own NXT, right? It's your company. It's part of your show. And you've got it on TV. And your television partner's like, we're paying you for this? You've undermined like your own characters on your own show that we've got on our network, and we are paying you for the privilege of this. Seems solid. So in contrast, and also when they sent out Carrion Cross, they sent him out without Scarlett, who is his I guess fiance or wife or something, whatever. They've been in a relationship for a while, but she's part of the package. So what they did is they took away the fog machine that is part of his presentation that makes it look kind of cool. They took away Scarlett, who's part of going out there in the ring with him and like helping him look menacing and everything and all. They just had him kind of come out with the NXT Championship, just with his music, looking pretty generic. Had Jeff Hardy come out. Jeff Hardy, by the way, has lost to like 1 billion people the last couple months because they shoot Jeff Hardy like shit too. But don't worry, Jeff Hardy.
Way of his brother.
But Jeff Hardy beat him in like 4 minutes. Now he cheated. He's a good guy who cheated, which of course makes sense too. And Carrion Cross, his undefeated streak in WWE ends after months, like a year and a half, in 4 minutes to a good guy who cheated, and he's still an NXT champion.
Yeah, I don't know. The booker there is just not doing it.
I got nothing. I got nothing. So at this point, why should we take anything you do seriously? You clearly don't.
Exactly,
So anyway,
right? Exactly.
That's why I wanted to give you this in contrast to what I just said a minute ago. Lance Archer has been treated very well, even though he hadn't won a championship until now. He was still treated very well. He was still taken seriously on TV. He was still treated like a consistent threat.
Yeah.
Until the moment they were ready to have him win a championship. Awesome. By the way, he won a New Japan championship. AEW has done a lot of good deals with a lot of these companies to allow them to be like, hey, do you mind? While you guys are not able to do your shows, we can have your title on here and we'll do a thing with our guy and whatever.
Yeah.
So they were like, yeah, it's better than nothing. It's some advertising. Yeah, sure. You have our blessing. Because it's their title. Like, it's New Japan's title. But they were willing to allow that to occur. And you got to do that on your show in your main event. That's pretty good. Mm-hmm. So it's like, but that's cultivating good relationships with other organizations so that you can do that. You've had Kenny Omega on Impact a bunch of times defending his titles over there. You've got Kenny Omega with all these titles from these different organizations, including AAA in Mexico. So you've got a relationship with AAA in Mexico. You got a relationship with New Japan. You got a relationship with Impact. You've got indirectly a relationship with ROH. You've let your talent circle around so that they can continue to get notoriety and notice in all these different areas. And recently, you were able to use some of those relationships. And Thunder Rosa, who's been good with your women's division, she is now officially an AEW talent. So they bought out her contract with NWA. Okay. But because they had a good relationship with NWA, they were able to come to a deal where it worked out. She can still work there and do stuff with them as well. So it's not, again, maintain a good relationship. And they're like, yeah, we can come to an arrangement. Who would have thought?
Yeah, you would. Yeah, imagine that, right?
And it gives the wrestlers the opportunity to not necessarily be on TV every week and get overexposed. They can go to Impact for a little while and do a little run over there and then come back and then go back and forth. So all of a sudden, the door's open. So as a fan, I don't know who's going to show up next week. It could be anybody. Oh, but this other person works in this organization. That doesn't mean anything. They can still show up this week.
Yeah.
If there's a reason, you could do a storyline where X person from Impact shows up. Why? They want to challenge so-and-so. Huh, interesting. Mm-hmm. So it actually expands. You've actually created an extended universe where all these organizations kind of exist at the same time. So stuff can carry over from organization. It's basically old school territorial wrestling. If you're burned out in this territory, you can go over there and do something slightly different. And maybe all of a sudden you click and you find something that works for you. And when you come back, you can incorporate that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a bad way to do business. So I would say from the AEW side of things, I'm again, this wasn't the best show, but it was a decent show where the crowd elevated it. A good main event to finish off. I'm genuinely interested in what next week holds.
Yeah, for sure.
You still have my attention because there's some interesting stuff here. I can see some more Malachi Black. Let's see what he's going to do. Miro is going to defend his title. We got the pay-per-views coming up. We got some more big shows coming up. Like, I don't know what the next couple of weeks and months go. And it's been a very long time since I haven't been able to predict professional wrestling completely. At this point, WWE is super predictable.
Yeah. That's problematic, right? It's like, come on.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
There's nothing they have that interests me. It's one of those things where, like I said, they did the whole thing. And did we talk about last week? Did we talk about last week the Charlotte thing?
Yes, we did.
Yeah. Basically, that's indicative, though, of the problem. Stuff like that. It's like, oh, and by the way, playing on that NXT thing that I told you about, do you know that they originally had Charlotte as like a 13 or 14-time women's champion, something like that? They were starting to count her up towards Ric Flair. Mm-hmm. But WWE has actually amended that now. She's considered an 11-time champion because they decided the NXT ones don't count.
Oh.
They've retroactively pulled them. Like I said, they're undermining their own show. It's like, but here's the thing, and somebody made this point, and it was a beautiful point. Because it's like, okay, fine. You want to undermine it because NXT is developmental? Cool. Question. When, after last year's WrestleMania, I think it was last year's WrestleMania, maybe the one before that, one of the last two WrestleManias, still pandemic times. Okay. Yeah. You had Charlotte Flair win the Royal Rumble where she can challenge any champion. She's already been on the main roster for years, just so we're clear. She decided to challenge Rhea Ripley, the NXT champion, for the NXT championship, and she won the NXT championship, but now it doesn't count. So what the hell did she win the Royal Rumble for?
Yeah.
You've retconned you've retconned it to make yourself dumber. You booked this shit, and now you've retconned it.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Oh, it's so stupid. It's so unbearably stupid. See, Dave, I've gained energy now as the show has gone on because the stupidity has fueled me just with the idiocy of it. It's like, wow. But I want you to think about that. They booked it, so they have now retconned one of their main matches from last year's WrestleMania so that it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Amazing. WWE. So anyway, looking forward to next week's AEW. How about you?
Yep, definitely am. I've got it now set to PVR every week, so I'm good to go.
Oh my goodness. But this is in a nutshell is the problem with this damn thing. AEW, at least, it's not perfect. This week is a good example. It wasn't perfect. On the whole, it was enjoyable. Even for what it was enjoyable. It was a nice, pleasant watch.
Yep.
There's certain things I would have preferred to see, but it's okay. Because then I tune in next week. Maybe I get that Malachi Black segment. Maybe I get some Miro. Maybe get a little of this and that.
Maybe Daniel Bryan will appear.
Yeah, well, it's going to be. I think they're going to wait a couple of weeks for that. I don't remember what's the All Out. You said was September, right?
Yeah, that's it.
So-
Like Labor Day weekend, I think.
I
I'll just
believe-
double check on the calendar, but yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's
double
around
check
then.
that. But okay, this could be interesting because I wonder if, like I said, we don't know. Again, still speculation. We'll have to see what happens. But let's assume, for the sake of argument, both of them are signed. Let's assume
Yeah,
that's
it's
done.
leading into Labor Day weekend. Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's,
gotcha.
That's when all that is. in
For the sake of
Chicago.
argument, let's assume they're both signed. Let's assume that is actually in fact done. Again, everything is subject to change, but let's assume they're both signed. It's good to go.
Yep.
Let's assume also that maybe they do a thing where they're actually coming in around the same time with some kind of a storyline implication. Maybe they talk to each other. Maybe they're in cahoots. Because that could be an interesting little mini faction. It could be because both guys have a lot of name value and they have a relationship that people know about. Like, it's not like,
Yeah, for sure.
It's not like you're randomly putting two guys together that have never been seen in the same place. Yes, they have multiple times. So that could be interesting. But where you could do is you could do a million things. But what if you decided to do almost like an NWO redux? Just not specifically NWO, but I'm saying like you're doing a thing where you've got these guys who are known best for being over there. You could have Daniel Bryan come in first for weeks, maybe talk, maybe do some stuff. Don't have him wrestle for a little while at the beginning. The idea is just to set something up. But then you can allude to, my buddy is going to be joining me pretty soon. Something like that. Something to that effect.
Yeah.
And then it gives you a tease, because this is a point I'll make, and this is where we can finish it off, unless there's something else you want to touch on after this.
No, I think we're good.
Okay, so let me throw this at you, because this will be kind of interesting to get your take. One of the fun things about wrestling is that there is a balancing act between anticipation, prediction, and promotion. And I'll explain what I mean. If you know you've got a bankable star, the temptation is, oh, I would love to hear the pop if they come out and it's a big surprise, because wrestling fans love surprises. But at the same time, you also want pay-per-view buys.
Yeah.
You
for
also
sure.
want to promote the show. You want your rating to spike. And if I say to you, CM Punk CM Punk has joined AEW, he'll be here next week to explain himself. Now, you're not going to do that until the Chicago shows in any capacity, no matter what. But the point is, if I said that, the ratings would spike the following week. So, because the TV matters too, because your network partner would like to get the full. The surprise is awesome, but the surprise gives you a delayed reaction. It gives you a boost the following week, or on the next pay-per-view. But when you're doing a pay-per-view, you're not worried about a rating. You're trying to get buys. So the problem is, if you don't do some kind of a lead into it, that's what a go-home show is for. The go-home show is supposed to heighten your anticipation to encourage you to buy the show. You need to allude to something in the pay-per-view that makes people at least think, oh, is this the CM Punk thing? And then maybe it encourages some additional buys. Even if you don't want to flat out say it, you got to allude to it, make some kind of a reference, something. And that was what happened with the whole NWO thing originally. It's like, at the show, at the pay-per-view, you will see the third man. And everybody's like, who's the third man? Who could it be? Blah, blah, blah. That's what made the mystery work. But you had to allude to the third man. You couldn't just ignore it and be like, yeah, we're going to have a handicap match. That isn't what's happening. You bring 3 of your guys, we'll bring 3 of ours. There's only 2 of you. You will see the third man at the show. You have to allude to it. That is how you lead into the pay-per-view. So how do you balance it? Do you get Daniel Bryan out there first, have him lay the groundwork, and then all of a sudden in Chicago, boom, music hits, crowd loses their mind. Okay, now it makes sense. Because there's a million things you could do. You could have Daniel Bryan challenge somebody. Hey, let's have a tag team match. I'll have a mystery partner. Like, there's a million ways you could do it. I'm just throwing out different.
Sure. Yeah,
I'm throwing out scenarios.
Those all work as potential.
Yeah, but what you want to do is you want the audience to be then thinking, okay,
Yes.
so is it? Is this it? Is this the thing? Because again, you could play into it a million ways. There's a balancing act. You have to figure out what's going to work the best, and it's hard to say. But that's why I say, like, I'd be very interested. Again, if it is done, I would love to know. I would love to be a fly on the wall of Tony Khan figuring out exactly how he wants to play this, because it's like you want to maximize the impact. You want to boost ratings. You want to get the best pay-per-view buys. You want to do the whole 9 yards because it helps everybody. It lifts the profile of everyone. And then if you do it right and you know you're going to get that boosted profile, you put on a great show top to bottom. You put on a super card for everybody. Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? You retain some of those viewers next week. You don't want to have to rely on CM Punk and Daniel Bryan every week. But what you'd like to do is take advantage of the additional eyeballs you get, sell your product on a really good show, and then it's like, yeah, I'll watch next week. Because I'm already sold. I'm enjoying it where it is, and some of the shows are more regular, and some of the shows are a little bit higher profile and whatever. But I enjoy the show week to week. I have it on the PVR, and I'll rewatch it all the time. But and I'll order the odd pay-per-view. So like, I'm at least a reasonable customer that will enjoy what I'm enjoying what I'm getting. I feel like I'm getting my money's worth, so I'm happy. But you got to sell the new person. You got to sell the WWE diehard who's like, oh, this company sucks. And it's like, well, if they got CM Punk and Daniel Bryan, it's like, oh, I like Daniel Bryan. I like CM Punk. So you're going to watch the show now? Yes. Exactly. What you're trying to do is you're also trying to bring back some fans from the past that have sworn off wrestling because they got frustrated with WWE's product for all those years.
And next week, Hulk Hogan. What the hell?
I don't think Hulk Hogan's going to work quite that well at this stage.
AEW, you've gone too far. Stop.
Yeah, it's like, that would be literally the joke. It's like, too far, back up, get out. Yeah, I think there is a limit. I think Daniel Bryan and CM Punk will work just fine.
No, for sure. For sure. I mean, and you have to make sure you're bringing in the right people too, right? Because you don't want to just be seen as sort of the promotion of WWE retreads.
Yeah. Now that's still a challenge they have now anyway. Some people believe that to be the case. The problem is that if that's the best talent available, the fact that WWE didn't know how to use them properly is not my problem.
Right?
Yeah.
No, but I mean, but you also have people like Kenny Omega, who's never in the WWE, right?
For sure.
And Britt Baker. Like, you have people who are good, who are selling your product, who the fans like, who have never been in WWE.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So you have that as well. And I think that's a key piece to AEW's success. Right? Yes, you can bring in the people like obviously you bring in somebody like Mark Henry or Big Show that aren't really going to wrestle. If maybe they will never wrestle for WWE. That's okay. You know, they're still helping out. They're still promoting. It's still good to bring people like that in.
But they're also providing, like I mentioned, though, they're also a bridge. They're respected guys in that other locker room, in that other company, who, if you treat them well and treat them right, when they go to ask, hey, Mark, how is it over there? It's good, man. It's good. Yeah. That's what you want. That's the kind of feedback you want them to be able to deliver.
For sure. And you've brought in, people like Malachi Black, right? Mm-hmm. You're not bringing over, it's, WWE's released a ton of people. It's not just all of a sudden every single one of those people has shown up in AEW. They haven't. Yeah. Have they used some of them? Yes, they have.
Yeah.
But they're picking and choosing their spots too. And as long as they continue to do that, then it'll be fine.
Yeah, you do want to cherry pick the best, because you want people not just for the sake of having people, because that was WWE's problem. They just kept hiring people just to basically take them away from competition. What you really want to do is you want to have that balance. Thunder Rosa didn't become an AEW talent right away, but she was doing a lot of matches with AEW for quite a while. After a while, they're like, no, she's good. Yeah. We like the matches she's having. We like the character she's having. She's bringing the right energy and everything. Then finally, they're like, hey, NWA, can we buy this contract out? And it's like, they already had a good relationship, so the NWA is like, okay, let's talk about it. And they finally were able to do it, and then Thunder Rosa was signed. But she had already been working with AEW for a while, so it's not like she's new to them. It's not like they have to introduce Thunder Rosa. Like, we know who Thunder Rosa is.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Now the relationship is established. Now she's officially AEW, and she was able to do her post where she was like very happy and proud of the thing and everything. And now she's invested. So now she was already doing good work for them, but now officially she's like, okay, you guys have treated me well. This is good for all of us now. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to help. I'm going to do because that women's division gets a boost by having a good, solid wrestler like a Thunder Rosa.
For sure.
The more of those you can get. So all of a sudden, the women's division, which was the weakness, gets ever stronger. Another good female wrestler to add to a stable that's getting better all the time.
And probably makes you better than WWE's women's division.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate for them because WWE's women's division has a lot of talented people.
Absolutely.
But they've been treated like garbage. So it's like after a while, it's like, well, on paper you actually have a better team, but you don't use them.
Yeah.
So AEW just slowly built off their weakness.
Okay, they just, you know what? You know what's going to solve all this problem, Carlos? You realize that, right? WWE just wants to fix everything and just smash AEW. There's only one way they can do it. Sign Tom Brady.
You've gone too far, Dave. You've gone way too far. One of us was going to cross the line in this show, and you, sir, have crossed that line.
Everyone thought it was going to be you, Carlos, but no, it was me.
Well, in fairness, it would have been too obvious. The proper wrestling swerve was for Dave, the family man. You know, the good Christian boy. It's like as I sit here in my darkness, it's like, no, I am a red herring. It's too obvious, children. It's always the other one.
Only paid attention.
It's like, it was him all along, guys. It was him all along. We'll see. I think it'll be fun. I think the key though is that the speculation and the fact that it can be a discussion, no matter what happens, the discussion is interesting. And the fact that they can have the discussion around their product makes it interesting. It makes people talk about it.
It's one of those things that, regardless of whether they sign those two individuals or not, people are talking about AEW.
Correct. That's what I mean. It's like, literally, it is about the best thing you could have done is that, like I said, AEW could have said, oh, no, guys, we don't have any deals in place. They're not doing that. They're like, wait, no, you keep talking about us. Keep talking about us. If we deliver it, you're not going to complain. But at the same time, if we don't, we didn't tell you. We didn't tell you that. Mm-hmm. We didn't do the little graphic, CM Punk is all elite, Bryan Danielson is all elite. We didn't do that. That was all you guys talking. So either way, like, it helps the product. It gets the name out there a little bit more and gets people interested. Maybe it gets people tuning in and like, is this the night? Is this it? They're about to go to that 3 shows in Chicago. Is this it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, it's not a bad thing. That's that kind of attention. You cannot buy that kind of promotion because you didn't have to do anything. Now you just got to now hopefully, maybe you can, if you deliver and the people are ready for it, like I said, the roof will come off that building and that'll be a hell of a show no matter which show it is.
Yeah.
So that'll be good. So anyway, that's it. So that's the Unnecessary Wrestling Podcast.
Apparently.
Hey, no, but the news was good enough.
With a side of Tom Brady hate.
Of course. But the news was good enough. I thought the news was good enough. There was plenty to talk about in that in between the show and that.
It was good. It was good. I'm happy, man.
Sounds good. So that'll be it. So while Dave figures out the rest of his heel turn, as he keeps working on it, he'll be working away at it. So that'll be us for this time around. You can check us out on iTunes, Google, Spotify. YouTube, of course, is the hub. It's the easiest place to check us out. Unnecessary Nonsense Podcast. Outside of that, if you do want to leave any feedback, you can do so wherever iTunes will let you. Or if you're checking out the YouTube one, leave something in the comments so that we can see it. That's another way you can get a hold of us and get in touch. Other than that, that'll be it for me and newly heel Dave as he plots his next evil plan of villainy. We will catch you on the next episode